Good morning, 7th grade. Let us take an adventure ride on the mathematical train. Grab a blank piece of paper. This one I know we have not talked about, so yes, blank will do. And on top, if you would write, hold on a second, let me give myself a new page here. On top of this paper, if you would write, oh gosh, I gotta find my, sorry about this. It'll take me just a second here to get myself organized. You know, those snow days always do that to me. Here we go. Give me some tools to work with. Should be coming. There they are. Yes, on top, if you would write the word function. And this is one of those mathematical terms I've never really figured out why we use, but we do. If you just think like an equation, you probably would be okay with the word function. Now, what the book likes to make you think about, and I'll draw the best I can, and you can, well, let me give you a function. Let's just say that I have y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, the book wants you to think about a function like this. A function is like a machine. See how good we can draw this machine here. Here is my machine. And since we just watched Willy Wonka, they had machines that look like this. So, okay. Where, here's the deal. If you were asked to graph this or to find the answers to this, we would make a function table. A function table of x values and y values. And here's what the deal is with this. You get to pick your x, and x, the x number gets put right in here. Okay, let's say my x is 3. Okay, I put my number 3 in here, and whilst in said function machine here, what happens to that x number? It gets multiplied by 2 and then added 1, 2. So boop, 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 you put the 3 in for the x. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. And out comes a 7. You input a 3 and out comes a 7. Okay. You can pick any number you want. If you pick a 0, you input a 0, multiply 2 times 0, which is nothing, plus 1, and out comes a 1. Okay, so this is a function. All right, now it's important to know that we start introducing some terms that math people like a lot. Okay, the numbers, the x numbers, the input numbers, oops, gosh, I hate that button. The input numbers, and write this down nice and clearly, are called the domain numbers. Domain numbers. The output numbers, the numbers that come out, are called the range numbers. Input domain, output range. And generally speaking, if we have this function, we like to do at least 3 numbers. Let's just put in, you know what, let's put a negative number in and see if you get what I do. If I input a negative number, 2 times a negative 2 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 1 ends up being a negative 3. Okay, and then when we graph functions, I will sketch the graph of this thing right here, but you will do it on a nice square piece of paper. It would look like this. 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 3 over and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up, oh, 7 up, 0, 1, which goes right here, and negative 2, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. And when you do this, you will get and should get a nice straight line. Again, I can't draw very well with this little thing, but there's my nice straight line. Okay, so it's important to note you've got a function table. Where do the x numbers come from? You pick, right? I just picked those out of thin air. Where do the range numbers come from? Well, when I put my numbers in my function, I get input, and that comes out output. I just do this. It's like an equation. It just gets done like that. Let me make sure we got something. That's kind of the introduction to that. And I need you to take out another blank piece of paper, because along these lines, take out a blank piece of paper and write the word proportion. Actually, it's direct proportion. Might want to emphasize that word there. Okay. Let's say you have a square. And I write the equation to find the perimeter. The perimeter of a square equals 4 times the side, no matter what the side is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this, just got done talking about that, is a function. Okay, and if I was to graph the answers to this, I would do this, x and y. Again, x is always left. I'm sorry, I should make this the way this would work here. X, instead of x, we have an s. We put the side in, and we get the perimeter. So let's say my side was 1. Okay, think of my function table. 4 times 1 is 4. My perimeter would be 4, which makes sense, right? I add those 4 together. If my side was 0, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 4 times 0 is 0. And if my side was 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3, 4 times 3 is 12. So if I graph that, you're asking, what does this have to do with proportion and direct? Well, I'm getting to that here. I have 1, 4. Here's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 0, 0. And here's 3, 12. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It'd be way up here somewhere. Okay, now here is the deal. For something to be proportional, or to direct proportion, this has to happen. It has to follow 2 things. Number one, it must go through the origin, which the origin is point 0, 0. Point number 2 is it must be a straight line. Anytime the book asks you to ask if something is directly proportional, 2 things have to happen. It has to go through this point here, and it has to be a straight line as best I can. Now, if I were to ask you, going back to what we talked about, what the domain of this function is, okay, it's a set of numbers. And remember, we said domain were the input numbers. So the domain is right there. The domain is 1. Well, let's do it in order. It's 0, 1, and 3. That is my domain. And what is my range? We talked about the range being the y numbers, or the second, the output numbers, which would be 0, 4, and 12. Domain, input, range, output. And I think for right now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to get you where you need to go as far as functions go. And we will talk much about that later on, but this is kind of the intro, so we'll go slow. So I appreciate you listening for as long as you have, and thank you very much. You guys have yourself a great day. Probably see you tomorrow.